Namaste. Welcome to the beginning of another live Saṅgha. As we begin our Shravana section today, I would like to start with an invocation to the Gayatri Mantra following 3 Omkaras. So you're welcome to join along with me. Swaha tatsaviturvarenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yunah prachodayat. Thank you. As we continue to await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being a welcoming environment open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, orientation, belief system, etc. Let us create a more inclusive world. And let's start with this little live stream on TikTok. May everyone from all sorts of diverse places and times come to find expression here. May we, as fellow students of life, human beings, take refuge in the unity amidst our diverse experiences, share uplifting sentiments ourselves, and be dedicated to the happiness of each other. Hello, dear Crossfires. Welcome back. Namaste. Namaste, Dylan. Hello, dear Renvox. Thank you. Hello, dear Anazek. Namaste, dear Georgia. Welcome, everyone. And thank you, Babelfishy, for the trio of roses that you've sent. Blessing our Saṅgha today. Off to a good start. Hari Om Tat Sat. And another one. Thank you. So happy to see you too, dear Karen. Radhe Radhe, dear Magdalene. And welcome, O user. I'm grateful to be able to be here again today. Thank you for allowing me to be here. It is an honor to be able to serve such beautiful souls, and I hope to be able to connect and understand with all of you, hold space for what everyone's going through, and continue to explore sublime truths together. Thank you, dear Giuliano, for the rose, GG, and a pair of TikToks, and a cloud bread that you sent. Jaya Sita Ram. Dear Dob Darker, thank you for your heart me. Hare Krishna. And Anazak, thank you for your heart me. Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. And thank you for being here, dear Manette. Cosmos Sausage. Hello. You ask if I've visited India. This body has not. However, its heart has certainly explored just the beginning of the vast tapestry of cultures that this ancient land has to offer. Just that my body has yet to catch up, it seems. Dear Babelfishy, you share that your daughter is 16 today and you feel so honored to be her steward in life. That is an honor. Absolutely, it's always an honor to be a parent. And happy birthday to your lovely daughter. I'm sure that she provides so much joy for you in your life, and vice versa. It is my wish that you will be able to be there in her life for a long time. And thank you, Alicia, for the tiny that you sent too. The pair of them, in fact. Yippee! Now that I've gathered you all here, we can begin our Saṅgha, especially our Shravana section. Now, I am very honored to have a live stream where I get to share so much of my own experience, but I'm only one part of this experience. And you all have so much of your own. I hope to be able to share some of that too. So I invite the ability to explore each other's experience in our show and tell segment. Today we have a nice short one, simple and sweet, from Maitreya. Allow me to just set it up for you. Maitreya is a wonderful guest of our Saṅgha, previously known as Kalki. And they have sent in a recording of a private prayer done in what seems to be a house of worship. And it's describing the beginning of the world according to one Hindu creation story, and how every part of our existence was once one, and in that so-called ocean of milk, all the things that came to be were churned out of it. Very interesting, and I hope that you appreciate it as much as I do. They didn't really give me a title for this show and tell other than just a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, with a potency of 10,000 suns. They wrote that you don't have to share this. It might be personal to Trevor, which I assume is the name of the person who is doing the prayer, but it's absolutely stainless and not widely known. And they sent this while we chanted Shiva on my live stream the other day. You think it's good karma, and that you're glad to be part of our Saṅgha. I am happy that you are part indeed. Let me bring it up. Lots of things to look at in this video. Here we are. One thing to notice is the sacred thread worn around the chest, and I guess I didn't know this, but sometimes you can hold it in your hand, the sacred thread, while reading a sacred text, and it acts as a guide and a connection to the deeper meaning behind it. It's very beautiful. Lots of iconography here, like the 3 lines representing Shiva. But without further ado, let me play this for you.
Make us shine. All the gods are parts of the cosmic whole. All the demons are parts of the cosmic whole. We prepare this pot to contain all these energies. In the mouth of this pot is Vishnu. In the neck, Rudra is established. At its base is established Brahma. In the middle, the mothers are remembered. In the belly are the 7 seas and the 7 islands of the earth. The rivers Aruni, Gomati, Chandrabhaga, Saraswati, Kaveri, Krishna Vena, the Ganga, and other great rivers, the Tapti, Godavari, Mahendri, and Narmada. The various holy rivers and sacred places of pilgrimage are all established in this pot. All oceans, rivers, and waters from all holy places of pilgrimage are invoked to pacify all that is wicked. The Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda, along with all their limbs, are all established within this pot. Here Gayatri, Savitri, peace, and prosperity have been brought together to pacify all that is wicked. The gods and demons speaking together are the churners of the mind. May that which is Vishnu himself rise to the top of this pot. Within you are all holy places of pilgrimage. All the gods are established within you. All beings are established within you. All life is established within you. You alone are Shiva. You alone are Vishnu and Prajapati. You are the sons of Aditi, the bringers of prosperity, Rudra, the universal deities and ancestors. Everything has been established within you, who grants the fruits of desire. From you comes the fruit of sacrifice. May those blessings increase. Manifest your presence here. Lord, be pleased with us. We bow again and again to you, who shines like crystal, who spreads clarity and welfare, holding a net, who takes the shape of a fish, the Lord of water, who dwells within us. To you we bow again and again. We bow to you holding a net in your hand, the life of she who dwells in the lotus. Hearing this meritorious invocation, please manifest your presence.
Very auspicious. Thank you, dear Maitreya, for sending that in for us. What a beautiful prayer. I've never heard it before. Enumerating all of the different components that are established in that one, which we are of and a part of. Namaste. Good morning, dear Fiavelli. Fiavelli. If I can pronounce your name any better, please let me know. Welcome, Michelle. Hello, Angel. Hello, everyone that joined during that show and tell. Now, I would like to read from another section of our book, Hollywood to the Himalayas, with you. A journey that takes us, you'll never guess, from the Hollywood to the Himalayas. The story of this beautiful American woman, later became known as Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati, as she discovered her true spiritual self in a far and distant land, which was closer in spirit than she'd ever imagined. This first chapter that we're going to read, the 26th, is very short, just 2 pages, well, 3 pages, and then I'll take a very short interim, and then I'll read the next chapter after that, the 27th, which is a little longer. May you all benefit from the sublime truths interwoven in this spiritual text. And hello, Mama Angel Cindy. And thank you, Angel, for your heart me. Namaste. This chapter, the 26th chapter, is called Ganga is Ganga. If you don't know, Ganga, or also known as the Ganges, which is not how you pronounce the original Sanskrit, is a holy river in India. The one in which she bathed and ultimately had her spiritual awakening. It is the summer of 1997. We were on Dharmayatra, a sacred pilgrimage. In the 1990s and into the first years of the new millennium, my Guru Pujya Swamiji led Dharmayatras throughout North America, Great Britain and continental Europe, Africa, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand and Fiji, ministering to the Indian diaspora throughout the world. When Indians move abroad, a concern that arises, especially amid the economic prosperity of the West, is how to pass on the dharma to their children. This dharma is not dogma, religion, commandments, or canon. It is fluid enough to adjust to changing times and places, yet eternal and enduring in its roots, which are nourished by and in return nourish the river of life. These Dharmayatra were pilgrimages to ignite a recommitment to Dharma primarily, but not exclusively in people of Indian origin who were living abroad, to rekindle in their minds and hearts the fire of love for their own heritage. Be American where your professional life is concerned, Pujya Swamiji would urge on the US pilgrimages, but be Indian where your personal and domestic life are concerned. He also said, don't worry about giving your children cars, worry about giving them sanskaras, ethics, value, culture. Swamiji typically would spend one night per city leading these high-intensity spiritual events, ardent and energetic lectures on the importance of maintaining a connection to Indian culture, devotional songs led by well-known Indian musicians, and free vegetarian feasts were the typical components for crowds numbering from several hundred to tens of thousands, depending on the city. His yatras had another component as well, to raise awareness about the work of compiling the 11-volume Encyclopedia of Hinduism. From the Sanskrit root dhri, which means to support or hold or bear, dharma means that which protects us and holds us together. Living in accord with dharma protects, preserves, and upholds individuals, communities, and societies. It includes, but isn't limited to, the concept of right path, and it also includes aspects of traditional Indian culture and heritage, close family ties, service for the less fortunate, having a personal relationship with God, and adhering to norms established over thousands of years. When I returned to India in early April 1997, it never occurred to me I'd be back in the United States a few months later as part of a caravan of religious leaders instilling the teachings of Hindu spirituality in second and third generation Indians in America. Swamiji, I know you say God is everywhere, I asked him when we were in Los Angeles for a day en route between San Diego and Bakersfield. So why do I feel God so much more strongly in Rishikesh than I do here in Los Angeles? Which is ironic, isn't it? Because isn't that Spanish for the angels? We stood in my parents' living room as a car pulled up to drive him away. Swamiji was staying with devotees he'd known for many years, but he had agreed to come to bless my parents' home. Why was he so generous of time, energy, and spirit to me? How, less than a year after I met him, had I persuaded him to spend half an hour at my parents' house? People beg him for years to make a 10-minute stop at their house, just to step inside the front door and bless their home. This is a question I continue to ponder more than 2 decades later. I was persistent and fragile in my faith. My idea of faith included the expectation that, yes, of course the object of my faith would behave how I wanted him to. Swamiji was actually acutely aware. I think I added the word actually. Swamiji was acutely aware of the anxiety my parents were experiencing. It had been less than a year since my life had been transformed. Everything seemed new and exciting and fresh. For them, it had been a year of wondering what the hell had happened to their daughter. A year earlier, she had apparently been happily married and on the verge of completing her PhD, and would surely give them grandchildren in the near future. Now, she was celibate, living in India, chanting Sanskrit, dressed in 5 yards of fabric, and traveling around the United States, spreading the culture of Hinduism. Funny enough, I learned about how much fabric it takes to make a kilt the other day, which isn't exactly related, but I thought of it when thinking about 5 yards of fabric. You know, it takes 9 yards of fabric to make a kilt. And that's where the saying, and the whole 9 yards, comes from. I would never have expected that. The more you know. Thankfully, without me having to beg, he had agreed to come to the house. My anxiety about preparations in the house prior to his arrival was rivaled only by what I had experienced the night before science fair projects were due when I was younger. What if something had been left undone? What had I forgotten? What if it wasn't good enough? Wasn't right? I spent the afternoon doing my best impression of an Indian lady. I bought roses at the florist, and tied them together to make garlands of sorts to hang over the room he would occupy for half an hour. I made my mom buy brand new sheets and towels, which I dyed orange in her washing machine. But he's not going to sleep or bathe here, she pointed out, as if I'd forgotten the obvious. It doesn't matter, I insisted. The sheets on the bed must be new. There must be a towel, whether he's going to bathe or not. He didn't even go into the bedroom or the bathroom. He came for about 20 minutes and sat with my parents in the living room, where he drank the cup of tea I prepared without laughing at my pitiful attempt at making Indian tea or spitting it out. When it was time to go, I remembered the elaborate bedroom preparations and implored, please come and see the room. Compulsive attention to detail and bed making and room arranging did not come naturally to me. I'm not a homemaker by nature. My high school didn't have home ec classes, and I didn't go to finishing school or cotillion. I've never heard of that. I'm learning so many new words. Cotillion. Cotillion. Or cotillion. I don't know how to pronounce this word. You can teach me. The only beds I ever made were ones we short-sheeted in summer camp, a prank to retaliate against counselors who had scolded us. But I had channeled an Indian Martha Stewart on steroids all afternoon, and she would not go away until Swamiji saw the room. He walked in while I made sure he noticed the roses taped to the door frame. Then he looked around, smiled, put his hands gently over his heart, and closed his eyes for a moment in prayer. Then he walked out. The brand new, perfectly dyed sheets and towels did not get touched. I assume they got blessed, though. As we stood in the living room before Swamiji left, I asked him the question percolating in my mind since we'd arrived the day before. My parents had gone outside to the driveway to greet the people picking him up. Why do I feel God so much more strongly in Rishikesh than I do here in Los Angeles? I asked in a rare and precious moment alone. He smiled and said, God is everywhere. You know that. God is just as much here as in Rishikesh. But, he smiled even more, and the twinkle in his eyes seemed brighter than the halogen ceiling light. But Ganga is Ganga. Yes, and yes. Yes, God can be felt and experienced and connected to anywhere in the world. And yes, there is a uniqueness, a qualitative difference to life in Rishikesh, where Ganga flows from the Himalayas. I could have had a spiritual awakening anywhere, yet it happened in Rishikesh, the place where saints, sages, and rishis have flocked for thousands of years. I love that verb choice, flocked. Now I'm just imagining all these sages with their arms flapping as they fly in the air. The Upanishads remind us, Isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. The whole universe is pervaded by the divine. There is no one, nowhere, and nothing that is not pervaded by the divine. And yet, There are whirlpools of divine energy that grab us, don't let go, carry us out to sea and transform us. That happened to me in Rishikesh. As my head figuratively bobbed up miles from shore, I realized I'm alive. I'm not even gasping for air, for the ocean has become my lungs. My eyes are open and clear. I can see. Perhaps I died in the current, but I continue to feel more alive than ever. Yes, and yes. God is everywhere, and Ganga is Ganga. Thank you for listening. We'll pause our reading there. What a beautiful quote. Indeed, although this divinity, that is by definition all-pervasive, can be found within anyone and anything, there are places you're perhaps a little more likely to find it. It is these places that we take pilgrimage to, for instance. But we can take a pilgrimage wherever we go, not just without to a far-off distant land, but inwardly, because there the divine shines ever so brightly. Jaya Gange. As I said, we'll read another chapter in a moment, but I wanted to do a little interim since we can recount what we learned in that chapter and prepare for the next one, which is a little longer. Thank you, dear Jarrett, for the heartme that you sent. Welcome back, my friend. Radhe, Radhe. I like your equation, Garji. Ganga equals Ganga. It's true. I remember in grade 1, our class had taken a pilgrimage to another teacher's class, and she was going to teach us some arithmetic. And she wanted everyone to pick a number, hopefully a relatively big number, not just 1 or 2, and write out as many true equations as we possibly could. I think I had picked 5. And so I started with 1 plus 4 equals 5. Started with 2 plus 3 equals 5. 3 plus 2 equals 5. 4 plus 1 equals 5. 0 plus 5 equals 5. And then I thought about it. And the class was participating together at this point, wondering if there were any more. And then I thought of it, or the thought came to me. 5 equals 5. And my teacher laughed, and I loved how beautifully simple that was the one we forgot. The simplest identity of 5 at all is that 5 is equal to 5. No need to add or subtract anything. It by itself is what it is. And I remember that years later with almost everything, and hearing that in the chapter title of our book, Ganga is Ganga. It tells you a lot more than you think. Namaste, dear Sky Guardian. Now, Sky Guardian, in our reading, when our lovely author had a moment of alone time with her guru, it reminds you of the solo time you got to spend with Swamiji as you were walking to Jim's car, a precious moment with just him and you. And then some Indian lady came and touched his feet on the ground and walked away as we both continue. Good times. And then you brought me up, and he said, "Let me be." Regarding Om, well, you might want to leave for the meditation at the end of our live stream. Very funny. Thank you for sharing, dear Sky Guardian. Welcome, some guy. Thank you, dear Danny. Welcome everyone who joined while we were reading. I trust you are as well as you can be in this moment. And remember that you don't have to wait until next year to make new vows for how you want to be. You don't have to wait until tomorrow to feel like you're going to be given a fresh start. You don't have to wait any longer to give yourself the freedom to be ever new now. No matter how your day has gone, this moment can be the start of something new. A blank slate, feeling fresh. You can check in with your mood. How do you want to be for the rest of your day? This is something always a possibility. Beautiful, dear Karen. You hope everyone will find their Ganga. Me too. This moment is a fresh start. Well said, beloved Raven, and welcome. Alright. I think that's a good interim for us to dive back into our book, read the next chapter. And then after that we can open up our Saṅgha to manana, to deliberation. Being dynamic is wonderful. Well said, dear some guy. And thank you, Angel, for your tiny Yahoo! I'm scared I'm gonna summon Mario every time I say that. Alright. I hope these words relax you. Chapter 27, Dharmayatra, a pilgrimage of peace. Summer 1997. Before stopping in Los Angeles, Swamiji and I were in San Diego, on our way to the temple where the Dharmayatra program was about to be held. Swamiji said, "And you'll be giving a short talk on Indian culture." What? The only formal public address I'd ever given was my bat mitzvah speech. At Stanford, when I organized the first Earth Day event held on campus, I gave a spontaneous, impassioned exhortation to those passing by on their bikes to get off your bikes, step on Mother Earth. We live on this planet, touch it. Imploring them to learn about the great environmental groups I'd brought together for the celebration. Visit the stalls, read the pamphlets, understand what's happening to our Earth. But that hardly counted as a speech. Now, with less than 10 minutes till we'd arrive at the temple, I had to think about what to say and how to say it. "Swamiji, are you sure? Maybe not tonight. Maybe after a few days of seeing how these events go." No, he said casually. "You can start tonight. It'll be good for people to hear it from you." I don't remember what I said that evening, but by the time my name was called to speak, I was so drenched with perspiration that I rose from my cross-legged position to walk onto the stage. My silk sari stuck to the back of my knees. I could feel my face turn red, then purple, as hundreds of San Diegans of Indian ancestry watched me bend over and extricate the fabric from the backs of my legs. That night, I learned why Indian women wear cotton petticoats beneath their saris. It turned out that I love public speaking. I learned that if I could just bear the anticipatory anxiety, the 20 or 30 minutes of sweaty palms before actually walking to the microphone, I had found a passion. Will I get to speak here too? I began asking as the days went by. Yes, of course, Swamiji always replied. First, I loved the subject matter. I had spent almost a year being transformed by the culture of India. Yes, it was a placeless, nameless, cultureless experience of awakening when I first beheld the divine that had changed my life. Yes, I had been given a gift deeper and bigger than any country, a gift of the palpable experience of God in my life, one I had experienced in and through almost every person I met in those first weeks. And yet, aside from the spiritual ecstasy, aside from the formless, boundaryless oneness of spirit and consciousness I felt myself merging and melting into, aside from that, everything else I'd been given and had learned was from the culture. From the barefoot children with glistening eyes, I learned that things do not buy happiness, that being privileged might not be the same as being fulfilled. I learned that contentment can be hearing devotional music streaming through loudspeakers all day long. I learned that getting A's on exams and memorizing facts and figures do not make you smart, that the accumulation of information can block the flow of real wisdom. From nearly a year of service, I learned how fulfilling it is to give to others. The work I would have deemed boring when done for myself became joyous when done as seva. I learned that connecting with God both within myself and outside myself, in all the ways I'd experienced over the last year, was the stuff of which my happiness was made. All these lessons are fundamentally elements of Indian culture, what they call Bharatiya Sanskriti, the culture of India. It was there in the eyes of the children, in the eyes of the sweepers, in the eyes of the old women chanting their mantras on Rudraksha beads as they sat by the water's edge. It was the secret to a happiness that pervades village India despite lack of material wealth or progress. To share these experiences with Indians living in America turned out to be great fun. During the year my previous husband Jim and I had been in Ecuador, I had discovered how much I loved teaching. Standing before the class, sharing something that excited me, had been a great joy. I had known they would love the material because of how much I loved it. In the same way, I loved India. I loved all that India had given me. To stand before an audience and share what excited me was even more fun than teaching. I didn't have to worry about a lesson plan, keep notes of what I'd said so I could ask about it on an exam, or write legibly on a blackboard. I just had to speak from the heart. Something precious happens when I speak publicly. It's deeply meditative for me, and I experience the presence of grace. I don't feel like the speaker. I feel more like a listener. That which is spoken seems to flow into me as well. It seems not to come from my mouth, but rather to flow into my mouth from a well that I'm drinking from too. After San Diego and LA, we spent an evening in Bakersfield. I had lived in Southern California for 25 years, and it had never occurred to me to visit Bakersfield. As it turns out, Indians live there. Many of them. There's even a large ornate Hindu mandir. There I gave my third public speech on the richness of Indian culture. A year earlier, immersed in American culture, I had viewed foreign cultures as places for holidays, culinary treats, fresh mountain air and linguistic affectations, adventures that included chocolate croissants with espresso or hot melted chocolate fondue served with fresh strawberries on the end of wooden sticks in the Alps while goats and sheep nibbled at bushes nearby. Foreign cultures were things to adorn myself with, whether jewelry from the streets of Lausanne, not sure if I pronounced that name right, or sweaters knit in the mountain villages of Ecuador. I had been an avid traveler, but I had never really delved into the depths of other cultures. Here I was, a curly-haired Californian, expert in the locations of every Whole Foods market between Studio City and the Bay Area, yet so entrenched in Indian culture that I was giving talks on the importance of Indian Americans holding on to their heritage. The most essential gift you can give your children, I urged, is the gift of your culture, heritage, and roots. Nothing money can buy comes even close to the value of connecting to your ancient yet timeless tradition. The dichotomy between Indians in India and Indians in America was poignant. The Indians in the United States, and particularly the younger generation, were trying to be American. Too ready, I felt, to forsake their own heritage. I was saddened to see this, for it was Indian culture, the mesmerizing intoxication of the arti and every nuance of ashram life that I felt had handed me the gift of deep peace. I wanted to help the Indian youth in America see the crucial thread between their roots and their own happiness. So, I found myself draped in a green sari, standing before a crowd of 500 Indians in a Hindu mandir, urging them, with references to the Hindu epics of Ramayana and the Mahabharata, to stay connected to their culture, to embody devotion to Hanuman, the monkey god, in their own lives, and in Bakersfield, of all places. I woke up the next morning with a smile on my face. I'm in Bakersfield, I said to myself as I laughed, realizing I was still sharing a body with a Los Angeles girl. But by mid-morning, we were on the way to Alamo, east of San Francisco. I drove up Interstate 5, windows closed, air conditioning gently blowing on a low cup holder containing a bottle of water and devotional music playing from a single cassette Pujya Swamiji had with him. Swamiji and Kishori Vyasji, a renowned exponent of the epics, later to become Swami Govind Giriji, were asleep in the back. I lowered the volume to avoid waking them. Interstate 5 runs north to south, dividing California in two as it runs through the Central Valley, a vast irrigated agricultural region that provides more than half the produce grown in the United States. Wow. The scenery stays pretty much the same for hundreds of miles. Stick-straight rows blossoming with oranges, strawberries, and almonds in every direction. As the fields blurred my peripheral vision, I blinked to keep myself in the present moment. How many times had I made this drive from LA to Stanford and back? The trip was always one that required a wide-open driver's side window, out of which I'd blow cigarette smoke, plus cup holders full of icy Diet Coke and a bag of candy to keep me going. James Taylor, Sting, or Cat Jims would blare from the tape deck. I'd sing full throttle. The idea of a drive without constant stimulation was inconceivable. How would I stay awake? What would I do with myself while I drove if I wasn't extricating juji fruits from my teeth and keeping up with the James Taylor? I added the definite prefix, the James Taylor. Just James Taylor. At the same time, now, less than a year since I'd left the world of hyperstimulation, I drove stimulated by life itself and by the bewilderment at how my life had magically been changed. Was it really the same I-5? Was it the same I? It seemed familiar, yet different, like déjà vu from a previous life. And I think there's a word for that, isn't it? The complement of a déjà vu, where you know you've been here before, and yet it doesn't seem familiar, compared to the regular déjà vu, where you've never been here before, and yet it seems familiar. Sounds like you and Sadhviji share a music taste, dear Sky Guardian. Does deja vu equal life plan? Asks Piavelli. If you're wondering in a philosophical sense, maybe indeed. If you're wondering in a linguistic sense, I'm not sure what it literally translates to, but it refers colloquially to a moment where you feel nostalgia or a wave of familiarity wash over you for something that you know by your logic is something you haven't experienced before. And here our author is experiencing just the reverse. Gregorji, you share, it's called jamais vu, when you feel unfamiliar with something that is actually familiar. Thank you, dear Gregorji. I know I can count on you. We spent July and August traveling through the United States and Canada, staying a day or a maximum of 2 days at each location. Each evening was a different venue, typically a Hindu temple or community center filled to the gills with elegantly dressed Indians excited to have saints in their midst. Each program began with singing and ended with food. Sometimes a full dinner was served. Sometimes it was just crispy samosas and chai. Sometimes it was temple prasad, the blessed food given by the priests, trail mix or ghee-laden mush called halva. We never stayed for the food, as we took our meals at the homes of devotees with whom we stayed. In Raleigh-Durham, Columbia, Knoxville, Nashville, Tampa, Louisville, and Lexington, cities I'd never dreamed of visiting, I was welcomed into the homes of Indians who had migrated to America. Each evening, after I gave my 10 or 15-minute talk, Swamiji and Kishori Vyasji would speak. Swamiji always began by chanting mantras, and they echoed through the hallways amid a pin drop of silence. Then he gave a lecture in a mix of English and various Indian languages. I sat melting into his words and his presence as he encouraged everyone to live in peace, not pieces, to be better and not bitter. His method of teaching is so simple. Connect with God, serve humanity, worship the Creator, serve the creation, be grateful, be happy, and focus more on samskaras than cars, more on yourself than your shelves. Samskaras refer to impressions, hopefully positive ones. Kishore Vyasji gave his talks in Hindi, and so I didn't understand, although I loved being in his presence. When we were alone or in small groups, he spoke to me in English, so I knew he could, but clearly the Indians were happiest to hear their native tongues being spoken by these saints. Always remember 3 things, Swamiji instructed: your mother, your motherland, and your mother's tongue. A cow does not forget how to moo. A bird does not forget how to chirp. You should not forget your mother tongue. I loved being part of a traveling religious troupe. Or troupe. I don't know how to pronounce this word. It clearly comes from French. Seeing all the Hindu temples and being places where people talked only about God and spirituality, I could now recognize which statues were Krishna, which were Rama, which were Shiva, and which were Hanuman and Ganesh. That one's the elephant-headed son of Shiva and the goddess Parvati. I prostrated before each in full devotion. Me, bowing to a statue. I couldn't believe it, but I did it because I was overwhelmed with gratitude and devotion. Each marble or stone image I saw smiled at me. Each pair of eyes bore into my own. Krishna stood, flute in hand, poised elegantly on one foot, coaxing me to play. His eyes wouldn't let go until my heart was on the ground at his feet. I love you, I whispered. as though our affair were a secret. My eyes spilled tears on the carpeted floors of temples across America. Next to Krishna always stood Radha, the graceful epitome of devotion. In Vrindavan, in what is now Uttar Pradesh, where Krishna played in the stories of his youth, the greeting is Radhe Radhe. It is said that Krishna loves his devotee Radha so much that he comes wherever she is, so people pray to Radha to appear so that Krishna will come too. On a deeper level, it's not so much about her appearance as it is about our own ability to manifest, experience, know, and become her. So, in longing for the presence of Krishna, we must first attain or become Radha. Radha, I would pray silently in each of these temples that had sprouted up in a country that no longer felt like my own. Race me and bless me with devotion like yours. Let me be drowned in the beauty of love for God as you are. Enter me, Radha, become me. Let me become you. Prostrating on the carpeted floors, I would raise my head and look up at her eyes peering down. My chest grew as I took a breath. A bit of her was flowing into me. My beloved Hanuman. He is a brahmachari, literally, one moving forward on the path of Brahman, or one who knows Brahman, the ultimate supreme reality, though more colloquially used to mean celibacy. It is said that women are not supposed to even touch Hanuman's statue, but I couldn't help myself. Whenever I saw a statue of Hanuman, on one knee, hands in prayer at the feet of Lord Rama and Sita Ma, which are Hanuman's Ishta Devata. Or standing brave and tall, his hands pulling his own chest open so we all could behold the image of Rama and Sita within his heart. I had to touch him. I would sneak furtive glance. Another new word for me. I would sneak furtive glances behind me, lest the priest or another devotee was watching. And then, if the coast was clear, I'd reach out and touch his feet. Oh Hanuman, I'd pray, please give me some of this devotion. Let the power of grace flow through me as well. Let me be as devoted as you. Let me be just as a vehicle for the service of God. Come into me, Hanuman. Let me and let me become you. Or become me and let me become you. As I looked up from the ground, his face always seemed to be smiling down on me. Even when it was just his profile as he knelt at the feet of his Lord, I could feel him saying, yes, yes, yes. A pulsing embrace. Yes, I will come into you. And my chest would again swell as I breathed. It was the feeling I'd had at the foot of redwood trees as my face rested in the rich, wet soil beneath them. It was the feeling I'd had lying on my back at the base of these trees, watching the refraction of the sun's rays through the interwoven lattice branches hundreds of feet up. Yes, yes, come into me, fill me with your light and grace. Yes. That's the end of the 27th chapter. Thank you for listening. Bit of a longer one, but a wonderful one at that. I certainly respect her deeply for paying homage to a rich culture. One may say it is not her native culture. That may be true, but can we say that it is not her own when it is given freely from the land itself to everyone that crosses path with it? I think the culture that this land of India has given this world is one of the greatest gifts to our planet, and certainly deserves to be cherished by all. But when we say India, we might think of countries, but it's not about a country, as countries are a relatively recent idea. They only came into existence a few centuries ago, but culture is something that transcends country. It's tied to country as it means the land itself, Mother Nature, which, yes, is localized to one particular region of geography, but her aroma spreads across the whole world as she feeds an entire global ecosystem. And I love how at the end of that chapter, she pointed to such a subtle point, which is, not only can one have faith and reverence for the divine, but we can have faith and reverence for the virtues of faith and reverence as exemplified by devotees. And I think it marks a beautiful tradition in the East of praying not just to the divine, but to beings that have walked the land, who were themselves really good at praying to the divine. And so we pray to ask, how are you so good at that? Can I learn from you? And it's just so selfless. Anyway, thank you for listening. Namaste. Now we can transition from our Shravana, our hearing portion of the live stream, to our Manana. There, I think it loaded. This section's all about reflection on what we've heard in the story, or the show and tell, or anything else that we have experienced. So I welcome everyone to explore the concepts our heart desires together. Now, thank you, dear John Simon, for the heart me you sent while we read. Om Ganganapatayi Namaha. And thank you, Renvox, for your ice cream cone. Om Kringalikayi Namaha. Karane Karan. You share your English is not as good as writing, but good as listening. I know what you mean. Mm-hmm. Listening is a part of our inner stillness. When we become listeners, we abide as that one still being that pervades us all. We are engaging in Shiva consciousness. And when we are expressing ourselves, we are engaging in Shakti energy. And there is a balance. Hello again, dear Angel Appleseed. Nice to see you here again. And hello, dear Michelle. You ask if I slept well and have I eaten well. Thank you for asking. I slept long today. You know, I was much too excited to sleep early last night, so I had a relatively shallow sleep, and I made up for that with a longer sleep. And I'll make myself a nice meal after I do this live stream. But thank you for asking. I ask the same on behalf of you. Did you sleep well? Have you eaten yet? And thank you, John Simon, for another finger heart. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Here's an interesting question from Theist Cool 1. Shiva consciousness versus Krishna consciousness? They are one. Shiva is consciousness, Krishna is consciousness, but they have different flavors. Krishna consciousness is of the Vaishnava tradition, the tradition of those who are devoted to the form of the divine called Vishnu, and his many epithets including Krishna. Whereas Shiva is the form of the divine as understood by Shaivites. But Shaivite or Vaishnavite consciousness is one. Shiva and Vishnu are the same. They are just seen from different perspectives. In the Trimurti, the triple form of God, there is Shiva, there is Brahma, and there is Vishnu. The one responsible for dissolution, the one responsible for creation, and the one responsible for sustenance. But ultimately, these faculties all come from the same source. And this is true not just if you are a Shaivite, or Vaishnavite, or Shakta, or a devotee of any other form of the divine, from any religion around the world. If every path claims that they worship the one and only true God, then the only way that is true is if they all worship the very same one and only divine truth, just spoken of in different ways. And thank you for bringing awareness to the love of Buddha, dear Pia Valley. Thank you. Dear Gregarji, you shared that thinking about seeking out consciousness of different flavors made you think of a zombie analogy. A little funny considering science is always trying to say consciousness is a function of the brain. Well, I see the association then. A zombie drinking the consciousness out of different brains. This one like pina colada. Brain. This consciousness tastes like green apple. This consciousness tastes like Shiva. This consciousness tastes like Krishna. Do you think the consciousness of a clown tastes funny? Don't answer that. Hello, dear stormy area. Thank you for your greetings, Tyrannosec. Namaste. I wish you a pleasant night too. Thank you, Angel, for your tiny yippee. And thank you, Anazek, for your quintet of roses. One for each of the elements. Akasha, space, Vayu, air, and Tejas, fire, and Apas, water. And last but not least is Prithvi. That is the earth that we know and love. Jaya Bhanch Buddha. And thank you, Hybrid Gen, for your trio of TGIFs. Thank God it's Friday. And when it's Saturday, I'll be saying, thank God it's Saturday. And when it's Sunday, I'll be saying, thank God it's Sunday. And when it's Monday, I'll be saying, How dare you, God? No, I'm just kidding. Thank God for Monday. Thank God for every day. Ryan, you share that if all the world is divine, then who are we to judge? Sadhu, well said. Each day is a gift, indeed. Dear Marcy, you share that you woke up upset and went outside to seethe. That's a great word, seethe. You stared at the sun and said, "Make me less mad." And 2 moments later, a bee came and landed on your finger. Oh, how beautiful. Then you cried. You've been having many moments with bees lately. I think you must be their queen. Queen Bee, we'll have to call you. Queen Bee Marceline. Mother Nature. You might not believe it, but you don't have to. She cannot bear to see us weep. If we take refuge in her, she will instantly rearrange herself. It's only a matter of time before she sends a bee to land on your finger. You can't find the heart emoji, so here's blue love, some blue circles from Pia Valley. That's okay. I love the color blue, the color of the ocean, color of the sky, color of my eyes. Blueness is vast. It is cool. It speaks to deepness, and I appreciate your love in the form of blueness. Hello, dear Cloud. You share that you were here last month and I showed up in your dream last night, so you rejoined tonight. Sorry about that. Sometimes I have a habit of wandering dreams, just like that episode of SpongeBob, where SpongeBob is navigating through the dreams of Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Andy. You can't blame me. I grew up on SpongeBob. He has become me. When that bee landed on your finger, you were just like, she's listening. Divine Mother is always listening. It's having you tear up now. That's beautiful. Your tears are always a blessing. And thank you, Stormy Ariel, for your baby ghost. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. When I think of baby ghost, I think of all those mothers whom maybe have lost a child, maybe had a miscarriage, maybe if you'll join me, we can take a moment to consider all those who have struggled with that kind of loss and give our attention to them. May they find peace in knowing that it was not their fault and that their motherhood is not up to question, no matter what happens. Jai Sita Jaya Sati Jaya Radha, Jaya Parvati, Jaya Ganga, Jaya Saraswati, Jaya Durga, Jaya Kali. Salutations to all the mothers in the world. Dear Gregorji, you ask if I've heard of Vault B at the Padmanabhaswami temple. No, but that sounds very, very fascinating. Have you heard of Vault Me? The vault of your true self, hiding the secrets of your dormant identity. Dear Saṅgha, you share that you woke up today anxious. Seems like it's going around today. You did some deep breathing exercises to calm yourself down. It's wonderful. And I assume it worked. And thank you for being an inspiration for everyone else. Could learn more about the value of that. Absolutely. I'm so happy to hear that. It's almost embarrassing once the value of the breath is discovered. It's like this whole time I could just bring myself to the breath. I don't have to worry about all these convoluted strategies, conceptualizations, intellectualizations to logically analyze myself or whatnot. I can just put faith and trust in my breath. You can't help but laugh, you know. But how powerful, how wonderful that is. Gregorji, you share that Vault B is one of 5 or 6 temples dedicated to Vishnu. The treasure is supposed to be his. Supposedly most of the world's gold is there. But Vault B is sealed shut and is said to be only opened by a sacred mystic. Well, of course. These 5 or 6 temples are the temples of the 5 or 6 senses. And the treasure that can be found if you can truly open these perceptions is held none other by the highest of highs, Lord Vishnu. What a treasure it is to be able to see. What a treasure it is to be able to hear, to taste, to smell, to feel, and to think. These temples are so secret that only a true mystic can even recognize their divinity. But through a qualified teacher, we can open them up and then see the most joyful thing that you can possibly imagine. Hear the most beautiful sounds you could ever cognize. Taste and smell the most aromatic experiences and feel the most ecstatic states. And of course, give rise to the thoughts of the greatest euphoria. The treasures of the senses, when spiritualized by a master, is worth much more than all the world's gold. And isn't that relatable, dear crazy eyes? And for some reason we avoid doing breath work more often. Doesn't come to mind. We have to practice even remembering that it's a possibility. Dear Marcy, you ask if we've all seen the prompt that says, let all your air out, then scream. It's a wonderful thing to do for a tickle. Oh, how symbolic that is too. Hello, dear Sean. You share that you need help to quit smoking. I'm so happy to hear that you are considering a possibility that's for you. We need all the help we can get. We can surround ourselves with people that motivate us without putting expectations. That's going to be one of the subtlest but most helpful points, is that we need motivation without expectation, which means that there's no fear of disappointment. If it so happens that you end up going back on the habit, then the best thing we can do for ourselves to start our disconnect from that again is to connect with forgiveness and understanding that this journey may have ups and downs, and we should be committed to the process, not to the end result. And if you are committed to that, it is not long before you realize that you haven't even craved one for the last however long. Shift your attention from the ways in which you are limited to the ways in which possibilities open up for you. So quickly our lungs begin to clean themselves, our brain begins to restructure itself, and if you're an avid smoker, you begin to save money. You become healthier, you can breathe much more deeply, your airways open up, and your ability for the air sacs in our lungs to take the oxygen out of the air and put it in our blood, and take the carbon dioxide out of our blood and put it back out, just becomes much more efficient. If you bring to mind all of these things that are made possible now, it becomes so much easier. But above all, recognize that you are not alone in the effort. Just consider for a moment that some force of this universe is compelling you to go through the motions of quitting, and therefore you will be able to find that that effort is not just yours. If you recognize how much effort comes from something that we can only describe as grace, it becomes that much more easier. But I certainly extend my best wishes. You know, smoking is one of the most difficult things to transcend. I think I've heard some people say that it's even harder than heroin. But it's like apples to oranges. The neurology, the neurochemistry is very different. But don't you want to be one of those people that take on the near impossible and one day call yourself someone who has achieved something that very few others have, and thereby becoming a role model for others in your life, empowering them to, showing them how it is truly possible. Think inspiring thoughts, and you shall achieve greatness. Dear Michelle, you share that it was so tough to stop, but you're glad that you did. And you have no idea why you started in the first place. Sometimes it's like that. We just find ourselves in a situation and we're not exactly how we're sure it started. But instead of judging ourselves, we can make use of what we've got. The path forward must accommodate where we are currently. Otherwise, how will we know where to place our next step? Hari Om Tat Sat. I'm happy you enjoyed the sense metaphor, Gregorji. And thank you, Sean, for your rosa. Radhe or Radhe. So they represent the chakra points. Ask G to infinity within the body. Like open the chakra and the energy flows through. Good observation. Yes, I hadn't even thought of that connection, but you're absolutely right. Each chakra is associated with a certain sense. So to find the treasure of our senses would indeed mean to open the corresponding chakra. And some guy, you shared that you have been in therapy for your PTSD from a life of trauma, and today you can say that you are happier. I'm so happy to hear that. And today you become not just some guy, but one that shows the world what's possible, no matter how much suffering you have experienced up till just now. May you continue to be happier with each passing moment. Gregor G, you ask, do I happen to know the Garuda mantra? I'm not familiar with that, but I'm sure it's easily Googleable. I found it. I have heard of this mantra before. Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Suvarn Pakshaya Dhimahi Dhanno Garuda Prachodayat. That's the Garuda Gayatri mantra. That's the Gayatri mantra of Sri Garuda. But Garuda is a form of the divine. I'm sure there are many mantras for Garuda. The one we just read means, Om, let me meditate on that great living being. O bird with golden wings, give me higher intellect. And let the god Garuda illuminate my mind. I've never heard of Garuda before. If we wanted to make a very simple mantra, it would be Om Namo Garudaya. Or you could reorder that, Om Garudaya Namaha. That could be a Garuda mantra. But it seems like most references are to the Gayatri Garuda mantra. It was a bit of a longer one. Yes, the Gayatri mantras are each 3 lines of 8 syllables. Which is actually what Gayatri means. Poetically, it refers to a poetic meter, a chandra, with exactly that, 3 lines of 8 syllables each. So it seems like one with fiery wings. That sounds like a phoenix. Garuda, the symbolism of a phoenix, I've never thought about. It's very profound, though. Fire is a purifying element. It's that which brings things from ashes to ashes. Fire invokes the essence of fire in other things. You bring fire in close contact with something else, fire seems to come from that other thing. In colloquial language, I think today we think of fire as something that spreads or grows. But in ancient times, I think the connotation was a little different. That fire was something that exists within all things latently. And today I bring the example of potential energy, those chemical bonds that are ready to release energy. They're there. That fire is already within the wood before it burns. So it's not like one fire is just becoming bigger, but one fire is finding manifestation through the things around it. And so fire is seen as divine in that sense. A fiery bird, oh, how can we connect these metaphors? Well, a bird is symbolic because it can live on land, on the ocean, or in the sky. Those are three elements themselves, aren't they? Sky is the element of air, land is the element of earth, ocean is the element of water. So a fiery bird is a master over all four elements, unaffected by fire. To become a master of the elements. Now what does that mean? Garuda is the bird Vishnu flies on. Oh, I didn't even know that either. Vishnu is the Supreme Lord. Him flying on a fiery bird, what does that represent? Him using the vehicle that transcends all four elements. This represents our inner self as that which is beyond the physicality, beyond the elements. Garuda is that which brings you from the identification of the body and the world and into one's true self as Vishnu, the all-pervader, that one supreme source. So if these secret temple vaults which carry all the treasures of the world can be opened by the Garuda mantra, now we can bring everything full circle. A mantra to Garuda means salutations to that which brings us beyond the four elements. So, in our reference to our senses being these temples that hold the treasures, in order to find the treasure of our senses, we have to go beyond just the elements of what we're seeing, just the physicality. We cannot merely experience the objects of sight, of sound, of taste, of smell, and of touch. We have to recognize these as vehicles that carry our consciousness outward, rather than something to receive as pleasurable, as an extension of our divine expression. Then everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch becomes a reflection of our innate potential, and we desire to serve that. That revelation is a treasure worth much more than all the gold in the world. Om Garudaya Namaha. Fire is life, not just destruction, some guy says. I heard that in ancient Greece, one of the most frequent philosophical discussions was on if fire was alive. Maybe akin to, is water wet? That often comes up. Is water wet in ancient Greece? Is fire alive? What does it mean to be alive? Well, if to be alive means to reproduce, fire reproduces, so is it alive? If fire consumes elements to ensure that it has energy around it, that's something we share as well. Fire is dynamic. Life is dynamic. Greek philosophers apparently spent ages debating on if fire was alive. Dear Gregorji, you share that you have heard that most fire can only be because it burns living material. For example, wood, oil, which is deceased organic material. Yes, gasoline, cotton, sticks, dried leaves. Organic matter is very flammable. And what a beautiful metaphor that is for us, as made up of organic matter in our bodies, that we have that element within us too. Technically speaking, if you get anything hot enough, it will burn. You can even burn a diamond. And people have done that on YouTube. Namely, I think Niall Red did that, the chemist. He took a diamond in a high oxygen environment and burned it. And there was nothing left. It's pure carbon, just like coal. And coal burns very well. Just the atoms of diamond are so much more connected. It's hard to break the bonds in the crystal lattice. Saṅgha, you shared that fire to you represents the soul, as the earth is alive and its core soul is on fire. How beautiful. It's a lovely symbolism. Thank you. That's a great observation, dear G to infinity. Gregor G. There's a lot of knowledge, that's for sure. And you certainly add to so much of our discussions. Thank you. Now, Cloud, you had asked if I had any advice on interpreting symbolic dreams. And maybe that's why I was who I was in your dream. Dreams? What are dreams? When did they happen? Daydreaming is one thing. However, that's also just a kind of synonym for having our head in our clouds, being lost in our mind. At nighttime, or whenever you get to sleep, I don't think all of us sleep at nighttime. I sometimes get to sleep after the sun rises. We withdraw our senses from the world. Our eyes close, and we're no longer seeing the material world. We don't exactly close our skin or ears or nose. We do close our mouth too. But in other ways, we redirect our senses inward. We can't say that we shut them off because they're still active in what we call dreams. In a dream, you may see things, you may hear things, you may taste things, you may smell things, you may feel things, and none of which may be physically occurring to your body. So clearly our senses have a component which is beyond just our sense organs, that something continues to see, even if our eyes are closed. We have a spiritual eye of sorts, a mental eye that sees even in dream. Our faculty of sight goes beyond just the physical organ. All this is to say that in dream we withdraw from the physical world and into a different, almost layer of reality. A layer of reality informed by the experiences that we had at one point. People say you can only see a face that you've seen before, Other people say in various ways that we can only dream of things we've experienced before, just in different combinations. And from that set of experiences, we can come up with infinite stories, just arranged in different ways. So our dreams are the living embodiment of the experiences we've had. They are our memories alive and awakened. These dreams speak about our subconscious mind. So while we are there, we learn so much about what is repressed or dormant. Therefore, the topic of dream interpretation must be subject to what something means to you in particular. Because if I dream of having food in the middle of class, that could mean something different for me, because maybe that's a memory corresponding to this wonderful teacher that allowed me to eat food, and so I'm reminiscing on a freedom that I had and the joy of having such a dynamic learning environment. But maybe your experience of eating in class was one that was secretive, and you did so because your teacher didn't want you to, but you were really hungry. And so the very same experience of eating in class means something very different to me and has a different kind of impression in my subconscious as it has for you too. So what a certain symbol means for you might not hold up to an interpretation given by someone else. So we have to learn to interpret it ourselves to really get the most meaning out of it. Now, to be fair, we often share meanings of symbolisms. If I draw a pointy shape that has two cusps and ends in a third, then we know that represents love and a heart. If I draw something with 5 points, then we know that represents a star. And we have in our shared culture notions of wishing upon a star, etc. So there are definitely shared concepts, and psychoanalysts like Carl Gustav Jung, he studied the so-called collective unconscious. And in that collective unconscious, we find unified symbols that can be interpreted from one person to another. But for something that we have experienced that maybe others have not, or in a different way, then we have to look back at our own history and ask ourselves, what does that mean to me? What feelings arose when I experienced that, and why? And we continue to ask questions in that way. All this is to say that we have to look back at our own life, and when we had a feeling or experience that reminds us of that dream, or vice versa, then we correlate with our own memories and histories and go from there. Thank you, Renvox, for the baby hippo that you sent. Om Dum Dargaye Namaha. Dear Christina, you share that you rest, but most of the time you don't dream and you don't remember them. While most people do dream, the only people that are said to not dream are those that have already sorted all of their subconscious traumas, etc. out. These are enlightened beings. I don't know, maybe you are an enlightened being, but generally it's just that we forget how to remember our dreams, because that requires a kind of muscle memory. For the first few seconds waking up, is your attention drawn quickly out of your mind and into something that you immediately have to do? Are you awakened in a kind of rush to assume your waking identity? Like, oh, I gotta get the kids ready, or I gotta go to work, or I gotta go to the bathroom. Then immediately you've evaded that precious moment where your memories of your dream are still there and we can contemplate on them. So before you engage in your waking identity, you can really sit in that half-conscious, half-unconscious state. Then I promise your memories of dreams will be there. And the more you practice engaging in them from just a few seconds after you gain waking consciousness, then it'll become easier and easier to remember them. If you don't dream at night, you could sleep 4 hours and wake up refreshed. If you do dream at night, you could sleep 12 hours and still wake up exhausted, because that shows that all of our cognitive functions were still operating just in dream. So that's another way to gauge whether you actually had dreams, is the level of sleep quality and how long you sleep too. Now, thank you, dear Kristen, for the galaxy that you sent. It's never expected, but so humbling to receive such a very generous gift. And some hand hearts. Here's some hand hearts for you too. I hope to pour back in value all that which you have given me into the Saṅgha and back to you. Om Tharyambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushti vardhanam urvarukam iva bandhanan mrityor mukshiyamamritat. Om. Thank you, dear angel, for your finger heart. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Dear angel, you share that your dreams make no sense when you first wake up usually. My goodness. You're just like me. I have such abstract dreams. They're almost entirely just a series of concepts rather than a distinct storyline. Namaste, dear Jai. And namaste, Lakonen. And thank you, Witchy Kitty. Or, my goodness, I called you a Witchy Kitty, but thank you, Kristen, for your Witchy Kitty gift. Perhaps you are also a Witchy Kitty, though. I don't know. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. Angel, you share that usually you remember your dreams while you're in the bathroom or showering. They can come back later when we open our mind up to have no agenda, no objective. Some of my earliest dreams that I've had when I was a baby came back many years later. I thought, wow, they're still there. Just repressed, I guessed. And I'm sure I didn't remember it when I woke up and engaged in my baby duty, which was probably to, I don't know, poop my pants. Whatever I'm doing as a baby. But then as vividly as it was, as if it was just the night before, it may come back decades later, along with other dreams during that time. They're all there. Dear G to Infinity, you share that you had to be reminded not to fall asleep with your headphones after Yam's live. Oh, I hope I'm not waking you up at some point. I can be more mindful of that. Dear Gregarji, you ask if I've ever become lucid in dreams. I think it's more rare that I'm not lucid. When I was younger, I used to have many, many nightmares, and I guess as a kind of coping strategy for my nightmares, I had to become aware that they were just dreams. I would recognize that the bad guy wasn't actually real, and I could open my eyes and I'd be awake, and that has always kind of stayed with me. And so whenever I'm dreaming, usually there's some awareness of the fact that I am asleep. And usually that leads to some very fun dreams. When I want to change the plot, I will. But usually I don't, which is interesting. Even though I can fly, I can manifest objects in my dreams, I just don't even think about that possibility because I'm happy with the way the plot is going already, you know? I'm already enjoying this dream. Oh, thank you for reminding me, dear Lakonan. I forgot to reveal the question of the day today as well. I will reveal that in a second. But I wanted to comment on, who was it that said they were experiencing many dark dreams? Karen, I wanted to point out that you probably have a dark side that has yet to surface. Perhaps you had been expected, like a lot of the forms of the feminine in our modern age, that you have to be dainty and polite and quiet. You have to be always kind and never raise your voice or question authority. These are all ways in which parts of the feminine gets repressed. The dark parts of the feminine, dark not because they don't provide light for this world, but because they are in the shadows of our psyche. So in your dreams, you are dreaming of dark things because you have a beautiful dark side that has yet to find healthy expression. So, like Kali, the Dark Mother, may you come to realize that no one can silence your voice, that your body is beautiful, especially when you bleed. Every function of your system is something that deserves to be respected and protected, and you should let your roar be heard. And if anyone is trying to take the life away from something you feel is like a child to you, then you have every right to stand up and use your nails, your teeth, whatever. Let that dark side come out. Hello, dear Talon. And namaste, Oceana. The time of gentle Karen is over. Well, not completely. I hesitated because always we will retain our gentleness. But it's time for a rough side too to come out. It's time for your divine aggression to make its way to the surface. These are all parts of the feminine which have been repressed. We call those parts Kundalini. And hello, Nitro girls, welcome back. Alright, I had a question of the day. I forgot to ask it. Here it is. Today I wonder, what are some inner pilgrimage sites? Of the many traditions around the world, almost every place has some pilgrimage site, some place which is considered holy or sacred or otherwise carrying a certain vibration or memory to it, which is deserved of people's presence. But this can be costly. Not everyone has a tradition which has pilgrimage sites which are available. Not everyone has the ability to leave their home, to have the privilege of being able to travel, etc. So today I wonder, what are some inner pilgrimage sites? What are some sites that you can achieve without spending a single penny nor taking a single step? The Atman shares Maitreya, and welcome. I enjoyed your show and tell as we began our Saṅgha earlier. Yes, one's true self. Talon, you share your heart. I love that. Yes. Our heart is like a pilgrimage site, and I hope that many get to experience its love. Dear Gregorji, you share in dropping everything and relinquishing thought and embracing this moment. Wow. We can take a pilgrimage to the present moment. We don't realize we're not already there. Om Namah Shivaya. Some guy, you share a memory of old loved ones. You are so right with that. There are beautiful things that exist within our memories. Memories doesn't mean that it's no longer there. It means that you've taken something with you. You carry a piece of that now. All we have to do is bring that to mind, or bring ourselves to that part of our mind. Michelle, you share, you found peace within yourself. Now that's a great travel destination. Taking the next flight to the peace within ourselves. Maitreya, you share the beating heart. As long as it's still beating, we know that we're meant to be here. That's an inner pilgrimage. Angel, you share that you suppose we can take a pilgrimage to the things we haven't processed yet. Oh, how practical. And how wonderful that we associate things that we are still processing with the opportunity for a spiritual experience. If spirit is all pervading, we must find it even in those memories, those feelings that we have yet to process. You think breakthroughs can happen there? Absolutely. Similarly, Lakonen, you share one's own deepest fears. They are the sights to experience to achieve your true self. Oh, what a practical answer that is. I like that a lot. Gregorji, you share a simple one, but body scanning, you find all the temples then. That's right, we have to know where they are in the map in order to go to them in the first place. So we can create that map just by observing all of the landmarks within our own system. Mm-hmm. Welcome back, Crazy Eyes. I really like these answers. A mix of very high spiritual truths and very simple but profound practical answers. You're funny, Maitreya. I'm happy to hear that you've received your alms food. Taking care of our body is always important. Well, I really like these answers so far. Lakon, and you share, this is one of the toughest questions. It does require a little bit of creative thinking, I think. I'm happy to be patient, give you some time to think of it. If you want to at all, of course. That's always a voluntary participation. I'm already enamored with the lovely responses we've received on it so far. But if anyone else wants to add anything, please feel free to do so. The past, shares Maggie. We can take a pilgrimage to the past. Yes. Well put. What is within, if not all that which we have already experienced? It's all there. We are the living memory of every combination of action, cause and effect in chain that has happened from time immemorial. In this moment contains the recollection of all past events, immortalized as the very status of this existence presently. Gregorji, you point out that what is all we have experienced but wisdom? Sometimes we just have yet to transmute it into such indeed. Thank you, Maitreya, for your rose. Om Namah Shivaya. Angel, you share, or another question, where is everything we have experienced now within us and within the world? What is the structure of the mind? It's hard to say, oh, this memory is to the left of that other memory, or this feeling is 5 centimeters above. The geography of our mind is much more abstract than the mere 3 dimensions of our physical world. Crazy Eyes, you share, you tend to find a journey through your endocannabinoid system to be a good pilgrimage. That's good. I'm glad you specified endocannabinoid system too, because all of that is within endo. Karen, you ask, what is pilgrimage? Pilgrimage is a journey that a pilgrim takes. A pilgrimage. It means a sacred journey towards maybe a landmark or a holy site that is considered auspicious to you or your surrounding tradition. Your amygdala maybe, shares Michelle. Yes, the amygdala is a sacred temple in and of itself. Actually, at the same time, did Angel share that? Oh, I see. This was in reference to the question of where our memories are, etc. In the amygdala, which you think is geographically in the body, or that chakra is, I mentioned a few times in the past. The bindu, yeah. Time doesn't exist at all, and everything happens all at once in the amygdala. How interesting. Yes, that would be the scientific answer, the neurological answer. from our perspective, we don't directly experience any part of our neurology called our amygdala. We experience a more formless kind of structure in which our memories are associated through experiences of this moment. That all I have to do is look at a book, and then that is like a spider web that has nodes connecting from it back into our past, and we travel along the associations of our experiences. Dear Valley, you shared that you've noticed how important it is to slow down in life to see the path you want to experience. What an important observation. Thank you for sharing that. When we slow down, we realize that we have nothing to attain that isn't already accessible now. We may be in the middle of a big transition. There might be traumas still healing. In the middle of our education, yet to attain a degree. Still learning. Our body is still growing, maybe. It seems like everything we have to achieve is in the future because we're in the middle of a process, because the results of those processes haven't come yet. But who is to say that it's the results of life which define our happiness, our satisfaction, our fulfillment? Last time I checked, anytime any result came, I was only fulfilled for a moment until my goal was then set on the next thing. If there is this endless journey of achieving things after things after things, then how can anything be the ultimate goal? Therefore, of all the things we have to attain in the future, why don't we shift our attention to the process of attainment now, of the healing, of the learning, of the growing that is ongoing? That you are exactly where you're meant to be now in the process itself. That the best version of you is not one that is healed, learned, and grown in the past tense, but someone who is growing, learning, healing continuously now. Because that's the highest achievement in what you are able to be a part of presently, now. CDJA13, thank you for the heart that you sent. I give my heart to you in return. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Karen, you ask, so would I say that everything comes from the heart? The spiritual heart, the heart of all hearts. Indeed. Alright, thank you everyone for exploring our question of the day. Lakonen, you point that trying to remember the most significant events and narrate or imagine the hidden meaning of them. These are excellent pilgrimage sites within. And maybe you add the root chakra, symbolizing our innate being. That is also a pilgrimage site. All of our chakras are. I'm surprised they haven't been mentioned. I will add that. That's my answer. All of our chakras, all of the energy centers in our body. These can be inner pilgrimage sites. Thank you. And the heart is the inner pilgrimage. How beautiful, dear Pia Valley. You know what's funny about the adjective being heartless is that from the way we use it in colloquial language, it's a negative thing, right? They say that person doesn't have a heart. Really, what they mean is they're not using their heart. They have a heart, they're just not using it. But truly being heartless, you could use in a devotional sentiment that we give our heart to something or someone, you know? Being so devoted to the divine is a very heartless thing, because we say, my heart is yours. It is no longer mine. I hope to be heartless with all of you in the sense that you are the caretakers of my heart. You are the ones in possession of it, because it is not mine, but yours. Welcome, dear Isa. And yes, G2 Infinity, let's pilgrimage together sometime. Lakonen, you ask, have I been studying how to pronounce the A with a double dot on it, the O with a double dot, and the A with a circle above it? No, I have not, but I could certainly do some studying. That's my homework. Thank you for giving me some homework to do. The vowel space is infinite, and we only have a handful of vowels in the Latin alphabet, A, E, I, O, U, but there are so many more sounds that can be explored in the vowel space that connects them all. You pause any one of those points, you can make a vowel there. It's a continuous, formless space. This is fundamentally what distinguishes vowels from consonants. You cannot prolong consonants. You cannot prolong a K sound and transition from a K sound to a T sound. You have to break it up into parts. But you can transition from an A sound to an E sound. Now look on and you ask, how about the letter S? Good question. Simple answer, not a consonant. It is part of the vowel space. We just don't think of it as one. But in between any two consonants, you can transition from one letter to another through an intermediary S. In fact, S is just the aspirated variant of the dental vowel L. And that's another consonant you don't normally think of as a vowel, but L is also part of the vowel space. If you cut off the voice and instead just aspirate that vowel, it becomes L, produced in the exact same place, just instead of voicing, you have aspiration. Same with so many other sounds. Actually, there are much, much more vowels than we consider. We just happen to use them as consonants, as semi-vowels or approximates. Same thing with nasalized sounds too. We can just nasalize them and we get nasalized variants, which form letters like M and N. There's a beautiful sacred science between the structure of sounds as they arise from the space of vowels. as exemplified in ancient languages such as Sanskrit. Now, Lakonen, you wish for me to pronounce Jakala. That's my guess. I don't know actually how these 2 dots above each A is pronounced. Dear Maitreya, you ask, is the sun the same size as the moon? Actually, it has the same relative size in the sky, but that's because the sun is 400 times farther away and 400 times bigger. And since size relative to us seeing it is proportional to distance, that cancels out, and so it looks like the sun and the moon are at the very same size in the sky. If they were exactly the same size, then they would also have to be the same distance too, which means that they would collide in a solar eclipse. And fortunately, that doesn't happen. Fortunately, the moon passes by unscathed, and we still have both of them after their apparent merger. So there must be some distance, since they don't pass through each other and destroy each other, which certainly would happen if they were of the same size and distance. No, thank you, dear. Who was it? Oh, I think I thanked this gift already, Sidija. I apologize for sometimes being confused with my donations. Anyway, my gratitude for the heart remains. And it is interesting that they are the same relative size in the sky for us. There seems to be a delicate balance between the sun and moon when it comes to influencing the cycles here on Earth. Life would be very different if the sun were farther away or closer or larger or smaller, and so would it be if the moon was any of those things too. Yet, the sun gives us our solar cycle and the moon our lunar, and so much of life, literally, but also figuratively, revolves around them. Thank you, dear Gauri Jane, for the heart me you sent. Om Dum Dargaye Namaha. Alright, Sufi Siddhu, you share, it seems like a poem that you have written. You ask for me to please take a shot on your take in this very moment while you are here between sun and moon. The veil of oneness, a veil of silence, hides our sight. I see no other, yet feel the light. You are, I am, but still we see only one breath, eternal. We may not be here, it is only because of the sun we are here. Your words are very poetic, dear Sufi Siddhu, and they speak to a deep and universal truth. Thank you for the rose that you sent as well. Ram Ram. And Maitreya, thank you for your pair of roses. Om Kring Kalikaye Namaha. Hello, dear Sarah. You shared that you have a 16-year-old cat named Bert and an 18-year-old cat named Boo Boo. Oh, what well-aged and experienced cats. Dear Bert and Boo Boo. I love those names. And I love them too. G2 Infinity loves their poetry. How is my cat doing, dear? Maitreya asks. They're doing well. They're getting older. They're coming up on 3 years. They have changed personalities. They're becoming more mature. They are becoming a little bit more sibling-like, in the sense that they're fighting over attention when they don't have to. Dear Shadow, which appears to be this enlightened being, always looking so peaceful and graceful, just happy with everything. The moment that his brother Sandy gets just a little more love, when we're not looking, he just whacks him. Starts smacking him, tackling him, biting him. And then Sandy comes running like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I did. I was just... And poor Sandy. And then we see Shadow. He's like, I didn't do anything. I am a perfect angel. Sandy punched himself in the face. But we can see through his charade. Poor cats. Lovely cats. They've got such personalities. Poetic words coming from Lakonen as well. We touch and seek each other but never meet. You, the light, and me, the shadow. I love that. It reminds me of an old poem from the Vedas. I paraphrase. In a tree, there are 2 birds, one higher, one lower. One eats the fruits of the tree, the other only watches. It's also a riddle. How can it be that there is this tree, and on the higher branch one bird just eats the fruit, and on the lower there is just a watching? Who are these 2 birds? Thank you, Xenon, for your baby hippo. Om Kamalir Mahakalikaye Namaha. That's right, G2 Infinity. Shadow is a disciplinarian. He's good at following direction. When Sandy doesn't, he smacks him. Sandy is a free spirit. He doesn't follow direction. And I respect both of them. Yes, I like your usage of their stickers, dear angel. Thank you for hanging lights and a trio of perfumes, dear Xenon, too. You are quickly becoming the noble one. Get it? Because Xenon is a noble gas. Ram Ram. Thank you, dear Maitreya, for the rose you sent too. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. You flow with Sandy style, dear angel. I thought you might. Periods, commas, exclamation marks, question marks. Can't hold angel back. You like to flow without start or stop. I like some of these explorations of that ancient poem / riddle. Lakon, and you share. The lower one waits. The other bowl moves the fruit, seed, and eat it. I think there might be a bit of a language barrier. But you speak of patience being a virtue of the second one, which is absolutely true. Dear Gregorji, you learned that multiple species of bird can live off the same tree instead of fighting for resources. I like that observation. They just eat different parts. We could learn from them, these birds. Hello, Miss Bliss. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. G to infinity. You are a sucker for the color gray, so you're Team Shadow? Yes. Pick one as yourself, Team Sandy or Team Shadow. I of course am Team both. I'm Team Sando or Shandy. Thank you, Zinan, for another pair of donuts and 21 ice cream cones. You're certainly fattening me up. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha. We are on the same team. We must be, dear Gregorji. Ms. Bliss, you love the beach and nature, so you're Team Sandy. That makes sense. Yes. What if both, asks Magdalene? You must be Team Sando then, as well. Hare Krishna, dear Morgan Bhakta. Dear Maitreya, you share, speaking of Egypt, did the sun make the desert if there was a jungle once there? I think long before desert or jungle there was an ocean. And in that ocean lived the largest body of oxygen creating life forms known as diatoms. These diatoms used silica to create their outer shell. And after trillions upon trillions of them lived and died over millions, maybe billions of years, they formed this sandy seabed, which is full of silica today. Through the shifting, no pun intended, sands of time, and the continents rise and fall, parts of the seabed get raised up and form many deserts around the world. Other parts of land sink down and then become the next generation of ocean floors. So we can thank ancient diatoms for living and dying, creating the oxygen in our air, for the Sahara Desert in Africa, in Egypt, for example. Because all of that sand is basically the remnants of life that once was, it's very rich in nutrients if you can get enough water and other complementary parts of healthy soil. Such is why there used to be many oases, especially along the Nile River. But due to the great storms that arise drawing air in the direction of the Atlantic, a lot of that dust and sand, forgot the word for a second, gets picked up, carried across the oceans, and then becomes the fertilization for South American soil, and thus we get some of the most luxurious jungles, such as the Amazon, thanks to the Sahara Desert and the weather patterns that carry it over there, arising ultimately from those diatoms. How beautifully interconnected our world is. And that has taken scientists many, many years to figure that part out. How much other parts of our world do we think is independent but actually connected? We can be committed to finding that out. dear angel. You thought sand was broken up rock. You have been lied to. Well, a good chunk of it is too. But yes, we have to thank lots of the silica in the Sahara Desert as coming from some silica-based life forms. Not all life is entirely carbon-based. Very few actually is like glass at the cellular level. You should see some of the images of these diatoms. They're very, very, very beautiful. They look like little crystals of glass, because they are. But where do you think they got that from? Probably from crushed up rocks. So, that's true. At another level. An angel, you thought glass was fused sand. It is. Yes. Just with some impurities too. Silica dioxide. Chemical formula for glass and sand. And many other types of crystals. Minecraft taught you something. Which is true. That's how I learned too. But where did the silica and the rocks come from? Well, that was ultimately fused in the hearts of stars. Amazing, isn't it? Now, Maitreya, you ask of these diatoms, were they alive and did they have consciousness? Nothing has consciousness, because to have consciousness makes it an object again. It makes it a quality that something has, and things either have or don't have certain qualities. Someone is either green or not. Or to various degrees. A heart is either beating or not. These are qualities that objects have. But consciousness is not a quality of an object. It is the subject of an object. Consciousness is that which all things occur to, including our body, including animal bodies, including plants, including little life forms like diatoms, including bacteria, including viruses, viroids, including rocks, including sand, including everything. So nothing has consciousness, but consciousness has everything. It is just that consciousness only becomes experientiable under very specific circumstances. In the same way that, as the ancients say, the sun shines its light equally on all parts of the world, yet we only see the sun in some parts of the world that are very smooth and pure, like still water, or in glass, or in a mirror, or in the reflection of our eye. Even though that sun's light is everywhere. It's on the sand, it's on the trees, it's in the turbulent water too. We only actually see the form of the sun under specific circumstances where it's reflected rather than refracted, you could say. And that requires a kind of stillness, a kind of purity, a kind of homogeneity. And in a very similar way, there is consciousness in everything. It's just that there is a spectrum of purity in the forms through that expression of consciousness is experienced. And once we get to animals and humans, we have reached a certain level of stillness in the mind where that conscious light can be almost seen though we are using that verb metaphorically now. And if you get that mind, which is our mirror of consciousness, to perfect stillness, then a person becomes indistinguishable from the divine, just as perfectly still water becomes indistinguishable from the sun because all of its elements are there. In the same way, that is a possibility for us too. We just have to calm the waters of our mind and remove the impurities which cloud it. Thank you, dear Cassie, for the heart me that you sent. Om Namah Shakti Shivaya. And I'm happy you can recognize that divine light in animals especially, dear Sage and Freya. The eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Thank you, dear nameless music. All right. Who's the very generous one today? Dear Pia Valley, thank you for sending a subscription to Kyle. Thank you for sending one to Dar Easy. Thank you for sending one to Danny Boy. Thank you for sending one to Maybe. Thank you for sending one to Wild Hog. Thank you for sending one to some guy. Thank you for sending one to Click Your Baiter. Thank you for sending one to Hihi. Thank you for sending one to Faisal Sensi. And thank you for sending one to Aubriel. And thank you for sending love to me from Finland. I wish to send all of that and more back to you and everyone here. I'm grateful that you feel like this live stream is valuable and that value can be experienced by others too. I hope to be of service to them just as deeply as I am and can be to you. May I continue to learn and grow with you all so that I continue to make this space an even more inclusive one for all of us to coexist, thrive, and discover our shared divinity. And thank you, dear Cassie, for your quintet of pumpkins too. Om Bhur-bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. Om. Assalamu alaikum, dear Johnny G. Om Namah Shivaya. Dear G to Infinity, you share that my unique teaching style resonates with you all. You know, I don't even feel like I'm teaching. I'm just that really excited student that can't help but to talk about the subject matter of the class. You know? I think every classroom has one of those. I'm just the most vocal student, perhaps. But still a student. And thank you, Pia Valley, for purchasing a subscription for yourself. It's never expected, and the benefit that you get is very simple. That you have a little sticker pack and an icon next to your name, but I am happy to be equitable to all of us. I know that every financial situation varies, and ultimately my duty is not to gather resources from outside myself, but to use my own to create possibilities for others. And please hold me accountable to that. I always wish to give back more than I get. At some point in life, I have to let all these things go, of course, but what truly matters is not what I get, but what I give. And you certainly inspired me to give, and never be expected to give anything yourself. I'm not here to make a transaction. I'm not here to make a business. It's not that I receive something so that you get something in return. I'm only here to give to you. I just promise to take what resources come my way as one to intensify all that I have in order to give back even more. Thank you. You are my investment, and the happiness of everyone here. And I am dedicated to your happiness, whether or not you even like me, let alone want to express any sort of generosity. I don't care if you've insulted me for months up until now. I only wish for you to be happy. And the moment anyone becomes open to that, I will happily myself continue on this path of happiness to hopefully discover in tandem with you all of that joy that exists inside you. That is the greatest treasure. I don't even care if we get along. I only wish for all beings to be happy. Alright, I think we've reached a good place in our live stream to begin to transition to our final third of Saṅgha, which is Nididhyasana. You said it very well, Orla. Thank you for that. This is not only my service to the world, but my practice with myself. We are all here working on ourselves together. Tadastu. And Angel, you are going to say it's time for you to go to bed. Well, please feel free to do so. Good night, dear Angel. Thank you, dear John F., for the heart me too. Radhe, Radhe. And Salty, thank you for your heart me. Om Brahm Bhairvaya Namo Namaha. Hello, dear AB Alchemy. I am well. Thank you. How are you, my friend? And thank you for asking too, dear John F. I had a good day today. I wonder how you are as well. And thank you for your sweet dreams to all, dear Pia Valley. And now, Maitreya, you ask, is there any profound teaching from Siddhārtha Gautama that I know? I think all of his teachings are profound. Siddhārtha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, the Prince of Bodh Gaya. His life is a profound teaching. What more profundity is there than the story of why he decided to become a Buddha? You too must sleep. Sleep well, my friend. Some guy. Thank you. You are perfect. I'm happy to hear that, dear AB Alchemy. You're interested in hearing why he became the Buddha? Well, I'll tell you. It's very simple. Unlike perhaps other spiritual figures, it's not like he was born and he had the status of the Buddha. That's something he had to earn. And that's right, Charlie. He was born as a rich prince. His father had kept him sheltered from every kind of suffering that you could imagine. He never left the kingdom walls for decades of his early life. He experienced all the pleasures and privileges that a kingdom could offer. But he was still unsatisfied. He had this deeper urge to go beyond what he knew as familiar and go without to see the kingdom beyond. He begged and begged and begged his father to let him go out, and one day he obliged. He said, "Okay, my son, dear Prince Siddhārtha, one day you will become king, and so I want you to be as often as you can in this kingdom. This is why I have made it so. But so that you may not bother me anymore, I will set up, a horse and buggy, a carriage ride for you to take one trip out, and then you must return. But you mustn't leave the carriage." Siddhārtha Gautama said, "Well, of course, my father. Anything is great. I am happy to even see a single footstep beyond the kingdom doors." So when the time came, he and his carriage driver prepared for just a short trip around the block. Nothing special. To the end of the street and back, basically. And on that journey, he saw 4 things that changed his life. 4 things he had never seen before. The first thing he saw, someone with a COVID mask on. No, okay, I'm lying. They didn't have that back then. But it was someone who was clearly sick. And he didn't know what it was, what it meant to be sick. He had been protected even from germs, it seems, in the kingdom. Everything was spotless. He said, "What's that? Carriage driver, please stop. Why does that person look like that?" Carriage driver said, "Oh, that person is sick." The Buddha said, "Sick? What does that mean?" "Oh, their body is not feeling well. There's some disease that they're struggling with." "Oh my goodness. Is he the only one?" the Buddha asked. Of course, he wasn't the Buddha then, he was still the prince. Carriage driver said, "Is he the only one? My goodness. Haven't you been watching the news? We got a pandemic." Everyone, practically, has got it. And you will probably catch it too. Siddhārtha Gautama said, "Really? Even me? But I'm a prince. Are you sure that princes get sick too?" Carriage driver said, "Oh, please, everyone gets sick. Yes, including princes too." Wow. Never thought about that before. Anyway, journey continued. It was going right. Everything seemed to be all well and dandy until he saw a second person that confused him. This person had lines on their forehead. Beneath their eyes and on the side, they had 2 lines extending from their nose to the corners of their lips. Their skin was a little more gray. Their hair was white. They had a big beard and a cane, and they were leaning over. They were struggling to walk. The Buddha asked the carriage driver, is that another kind of disease?" Carriage driver said, "Oh, No, they're just old. The Buddha had never seen anyone like that before. Oh my goodness. What does that mean? Oh, it's something our body naturally does as the years pass. Your body begins to get more stiff and you start wrinkling, your hair turns gray, you become a little less strong and your posture isn't so consistent. And it can be a little painful at times. Everything's always aching. You wake up how many times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom? You're always wondering if this new spot on you is signaling the end. The Buddha said, oh my goodness, wow, how many people does that happen to? The carriage driver said, how many people does that? Everyone. The Buddha said, I'm going to look like that one day. Carriage driver said, you're going to look like that one day. If you make it that long, at least. And the Buddha didn't know what that meant, but they continued their journey. The third thing that the Buddha saw was someone who was in the middle of all of these logs and twigs and straw, and there was this glowing fire surrounding it. And this person looked even older in the middle of this fire. The Buddha asked, how old is that guy? You know, do you suddenly burst into flames? You know, they said, well, that person is no longer aging. That's a dead person. The Buddha said, what does that mean? He had never seen a dead person before. Carriage driver said, death is what follows old age or disease. That it is when your body completely shuts down and your life in this form comes to an end. And the Buddha again asked, how many people do that? Carriage driver couldn't believe it. He said, my dear prince, you are one of the most educated people in all the land, and even you do not know that everyone dies. And the Buddha's heart sunk. He knew that he would have to ask this question. Even me, a prince? Surely princes get some special pass, right? Okay, maybe we get sick, I can accept that. Maybe we get old, I accept that, but how can I accept that I will die one day? Carriage driver confirmed, even princes, O Siddhārtha, experience death. Well, this has been a very depressing carriage ride so far, isn't it? But it's not the end of the carriage ride, and they continued. Now finally, at the end of this journey, there was one more thing that the Buddha saw. This was not a sick person. This was not an old person, and this was not a dead person. This was a person that had no eyebrows, no mustache, no beard, no hair on the top of their head. They weren't wearing jeans, they weren't wearing a belt, and they weren't wearing a button-up shirt. They didn't even have Crocs on. Nothing. All except for what looked like a bed sheet wrapped around them. This was no ordinary person. The Buddha asked, all right, what's his deal? The Buddha said, the carriage driver said, that is a monk. Oh, what is a monk? The prince asked. Carriage driver said, A monk is someone who's looking for the end of suffering, looking for happiness in spite of the reality of sickness, old age, and death. The Buddha thought, now that's an idea. So the carriage driver returned with him, and that night he was forever changed. He had simultaneously come into the knowledge of the inevitability of suffering, but also that there were some who sought out the end of that while still alive. And later, he would leave that kingdom. He would sneak away in the middle of the night, leaving it, his family, and all its belongings behind to pursue the path of monkhood and eventually become the Buddha, a fully awakened one, someone who has discovered inner peace in spite of the reality of suffering. Now that's just the beginning of his story. Maybe another time we can talk about some other aspects of his life, but I hope you appreciated that. And I hope you appreciate my my improvisation of that story. Got to keep it fresh for the next generation. Thank you, dear John F., for the heart me that you sent, and a friendship necklace, and a finger heart, and a tiny yippee. Thank you, Salty, for a confetti. Om Namo Buddhaya. And Maitreya, thank you for asking about that and for your rose. You should know this, given that your name is the name that the Buddha said he would return as. Thank you, dear Jen, for your octet of baby penguins. And thank you, AB Alchemy, for your TikTok. Hari Om Tat Sat. My phone is vibrating, which either means there is an earthquake localized entirely within my device, or my alarm is going off to tell me I should wrap up this live stream. Thank you, OP Productions, for the rose you sent as well. Om Mani Padme Hum. Thank you, Jen, for the rose you sent as well. Om Kringalikaye Namaha. Let us now transition to our final part of our live stream, our Nididhyasana. Coming from the three levels of Vedantic understanding, Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. The first referring to acquiring of a new experience, the second referring to processing of it, and the third, this one, referring to the integrating of what we've processed. So I'll have to end questions and answers there for now. But if anyone wanted to volunteer sharing an insight that they've had, there is a feature to add a guest, and I would love to hear from you and your voice. So feel free to volunteer. Otherwise, there's no expectation whatsoever. But I would be happy to have someone come up and share some final words to end our manana and to begin our nididhyasana. Now's your chance. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your quartet of pumpkins. Om Ganganapataye Namaha. We got no takers. You're too shy. Well, I don't bite. Unless you're made up of food. But then I can't help it. You're just so delectable. Everyone's so shy. My goodness. All right. Well, I offered. I'll ask again near the end of the live stream. You're all introverts? Me too. So funny. That's right, dear Greg RG. We had talked about that possibility before. I didn't realize it was a possibility on the TikTok live studio program that I stream from on my desktop. But there's a whole schwack of features that I didn't even know existed in this tiny little button that pulls out this drawer of features. Or like I think you're gonna have to be the one to come up, dear Orla, if you want. To do so, you have to press some button. I'm not sure where it is on your screen, but there's some button that you have to tap, and then it signals to me that you've requested to be a guest. Hello, dear Kelsey Ann. That's right, Jen, a whole schwack. Rock, paper, scissors. I'm just gonna accept the next person that comes. Buddha in your voice. Alright. Here you are.
Hey.
Thank you for saving us.
It's nice to say hi to you.
Hello, dear Buddha in your voice. Thank you for being here.
Oh man, I have a lot of fun watching you. You're very fast to come to very concise, appropriate, wise answers, and that always impresses me.
Thank you. I believe that when it comes to truth, if we just try to find a way in which it's directly available in our experience right now, then it's the same as just enumerating observations of any object, and I'm certainly no special for that, but thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Hey, I'm curious, how much time daily do you spend doing practice, like meditation or whatever kind of practice for keeping up a level for yourself?
Surprisingly few hours of the day. However, that has been changing recently. Up until recent times, I've just tried to make my whole day into a kind of meditativeness, and I just allow things to come my way, I guess. Browse the internet with no clear direction, and if an insight comes, then it comes. Either watching some video, whatever comes up in my algorithm, or if it's something my mother tells me, well, I'm doing the laundry or whatever, I don't know. But the past few days I have been dedicating some time at night to just do a short meditation, maybe 15 minutes, and a reading from a book that expands my worldview. And I think it's sometimes as simple as that. What about you?
Okay. I try to start every morning with my mantra. Sometimes I don't leave myself enough time in the morning, and I don't like practicing under a deadline, like a time limit.
Mm-hmm.
I need to feel like I have plenty of time for that. So it's best if I try and get up early enough to do that. And when I do, usually my day is just that much better. So
yes,
I'm pretty convinced now that it's just a matter of practice and consistency and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Well,
if you had
this,
go for it.
I just like to share this because it's to me it was a profound insight. Is I used to have a very clear understanding that if I don't go to the gym and work out, then I will not receive the benefit of going to the gym and working out. But somehow I thought that I should just inherently deserve the effects of a spiritual practice without doing the spiritual practice. And that came from a belief that I should be better than I am as I am. And once I really swallowed that perception that I should be better than I am as I am, then I really got into practice, saying if what I want is to develop myself, then I need to engage in practice, period. That's just going to be the math of how I resolve this equation. And so just based on that alone, my practice has been a lot more consistent lately, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. So
I love that. You can't expect your muscles to grow if you don't step in foot of a gym.
Yeah.
Or do any sort of exercise.
Yeah.
If you had one piece of advice, sorry, you can continue.
No. You caught it. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
If you had one piece of advice to inspire another to start their practice, especially if maybe they feel like they don't have time, what would you say to them? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's a good question. So in my practice, actually, the prescription is to try to chant in the morning and in the evening. But I often don't do the evening practice because my approach is it better for me to gain my enlightenment at the beginning of my life or at the end of my life? And so does it make more sense for me to inherit that value at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day?
Love that.
Right? I can go through my day in a much better way if I practice in the morning. And so anyway, that's just the way I frame it, is there is an effect to practicing, and to be able to carry that effect with you throughout the day, that's the value. To me, like, it's a daily thing, and if you don't practice, it's okay, but you just don't get the benefit. And it's that simple. So.
Well said.
Yeah.
Sadhu. Thank you, Buddha, in your voice.
My pleasure. I love watching you, just to reiterate, and I'll make space for somebody else. So have a great day.
Thank you. Namaste. Wonderful. I'm glad someone stepped up. So thank you, dear Buddha, in your voice. Such practical points. Yes. Do you want to be enlightened at the beginning of your life or the end? How simple. All right. Now, incidentally, at the end of our live stream, we are going to end with a meditation. Though there is value, clearly, in starting one's journey with a meditation of sorts. Tonight, I wanted to do a very simple meditation. The meditation I have for you tonight is just the classic pranav, which is the Sanskrit name for the Omkar, the sound of Om. We're going to do a deconstructed chanting of it, really isolating its parts. There's been lots of debate about what the correct pronunciation of Om is. And there's 3 levels to it, and none of them are more accurate than another, in my opinion. They just speak to different parts of what it represents. Essentially, there's a unified sound, a dual sound, and a sound of the form of a trinity. And we're taking that even one step further and breaking up that trinity into 4 parts. But as one sound, it's a nasalized O. No change in phonetics, just a change in volume as you begin and end. But the cosmic Om is, of course, beginningless and endless. It's said that that sound divides into the O and the M. So then the nasalization is separated and just left at the end. So you start with Om, and then you end in the nasalization. But that O sound is said to be a combination of 2 sounds, A and U. If you consider the spectrum of vowels that exist from A to U, from the back of the mouth to the front, you'll find O halfway through. So O exists in the balance between this initial part of our vowel space and the finality of it, U. So we can break that down even further. It said it descends into the A, the U, and the But we can also break apart that nasalization into 2 parts too. The M sound, which just means closing of the lips, and then there really isn't a letter in English that represents this, so I've just transcribed the word nasalization. But it's the bringing of the tongue back to make the nasal cavity the dominant place of resonance. And if you listen very closely, you can hear that at the end of Om, that not only does the lips close to make the M sound, but the tongue goes back, and you feel a very distinct difference in the resonance. And at that point you can even open your mouth, because it's not just the lips which are sealing in the air from the mouth, but the tongue. Each of these components has a deeper meaning. The Ah is the most simple sound that a human can make. It's produced without any articulation. Ah, you just voice. If you open your mouth and say a sound, that sound is going to be To make any other sound, we have to add some change. We have to move our lips or change some quality of sound or move our tongue around. So is the most basic expression that a human can make, or really any animal. It just is an acknowledgement of existence. Absolute existence is what it represents, the most simple concept that can be. An assertion of existence. Whether you're in pain, whether you are sighing of relief, whether you are scared, you know, it is just an acknowledgement of existence. Oo, on the other hand, has more information, you could say. At the end of our vowel space formed by contracting the lips, it compels it a little further. Just as we might cup our hands together to make our sound go farther, putting our lips together, oo seems to give that a kind of direction to it. So that represents existence, but in the pervading form. The M, being the complete restriction of our lips, is a kind of finality, existence coming to rest. And the final nasalization is almost a a conclusion reached throughout all of those forms. That from this beginning, creation, absolute existence, the acknowledgement of reality, as it goes forth in pervasive existence and experiences the dynamism of life and comes to a rest, that final nasalization it's the friends we made along the way. It's a hallmark of the whole journey, you could say. It's that energy returning inwards. That's why it's called an anuswara, an inward sound at the end there. All right, got all that? You don't have to. There's not going to be a test, don't worry. But these are the kinds of meanings that we can keep in our hearts and minds as we chant. I wanted to do a very, very deep one today, which means long and ings. So rather than being here for a long time doing 108, which is tradition, we'll do only half of that, just 54. And I happen to have a big mala of Rudraksha that has 54. So I'll use this to be counting. That way you don't have to, that way I don't have to. When we get back to the Guru bead, that's when you know our chanting can end. So without further ado, let's begin. Oh, one more thing, I apologize. I'm always doing that. Something I hadn't mentioned is you should feel the place of resonance just go higher and higher with each chains. Should be felt deep in the gut and chest. Should be felt higher, perhaps in the throat. M, of course, is at our lips, and the nasalization is in our nasal cavity, which if you think about it biologically is kind of in the center of our head. And it's said that a sound produced there is the highest that a sound can be produced. So that place of resonance, the nasal cavity, is very symbolic. So feel as you chant this, the place of resonance, of vibration rise through you, literally getting your energies higher and higher. Okay, now we can really begin. May the benefits of this chanting be given to all those whom for whatever reason couldn't or did not chant. Even if you just joined the last few seconds, may you receive all the blessings of that chanting. Om. My arm's sore. I didn't realize how much of a workout it is to hold such big mala beads. Thank you all for listening or chanting along with us. Thus, we conclude our meditation, our nididhyasana, and our Saṅgha. Thank you to those who sent a gift as we chanted, or perhaps just before. I'm honored that Hybrid-Gen sent a rose to Buddha in your voice. Just how lovely is that? I love when gifts are given amidst the Sanghis. Makes me happy to see. Spump Jupilius. Wow. What an exercise of the tongue your username is. Thank you for the quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And dear Ushabai, thank you for the like pop. A like pop, I like that. May we like each other so much that we pop the bubbles which confine us. I don't know. Thank you, dear Sarah, for your trio of roses too. Om Namah Shivaya. And that's right, Gregor. Like building back muscles with good posture meditation, like Brother Thanet said, one day I will have a ripped mala arm. That's right. Someone says, why is your right arm so disproportionately larger than your left? I say it's from doing my spiritual practice, I swear. Thank you, Sarah Sherman, for the trio of roses, and inevitable, thank you for your trio. Ram Ram. And Hybrid-Gen, thank you for your half a dozen finger hearts. There's some for you. Om Kring Kali Kaye Namaha. Thank you, Maitreya, for your rose. Om Namah Shivaya. And Sage and Preja, thank you for your baby ghost. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Like the SpongeBob anchor arm. That's right, Orla. I just have to inflate it. Nice. And namaste. Oh, Wanu, such a beautiful username. Azarez. Well, thank you all for joining us in our Saṅgha today. I'm happy that was fun for you, dear D-Lad. And thank you for chanting along. And then I can get a tattoo I can move when flexing. Exactly, Gregorji. Orla, you loved harmonizing with the mantra tonight. Ah, you are good at that, aren't you? I think that's beautiful. I certainly encourage people listening to, I certainly encourage you listen to some of those communal Om chanting sessions where people do harmonize, just like I imagine you were. It's truly shiver-giving. Shiver me timbers. In this case, timber being the spine. You know your SpongeBob, dear Gregorji. It was amazing, shares Magdalene. I like that. Tara du tara soha. Maitreya. Shout out to the music artist MC Yogi. He has a song called Shout out to him. Now may this live stream be an offering to the divinity within you. Asatoma Satgamaya Dhammasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from death to deathlessness. May there be peace in our environment. May there be peace within ourselves. And may there be peace in the forces that compel us. Thank you for sending love from Divine Source to all, dear Magdalene. Thank you, dear Ophelia. I am happy to be here. I'm like Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. When Willy Wonka says, "And you? Well, you're just happy to be here, aren't you?" That's me. And this is my chocolate factory. And you are all the Oompa Loompas. No, I'm just kidding. You are all the sweet treats. Thank you for reminding me to do the Hanuman Chalisa, dear Maitreya. I won't drown you all in the chocolate. No, but I can't promise that my sweetness won't be overflowing when I am in the presence of such lovable beings. And may we not go crazy thinking about the question of the universe and everything. Hee hee. Please be aware that the recordings of these live streams get posted to my Yamsox Live's YouTube channel. So if there's any part of that which you find valuable, it's there for you. That includes the recordings of even the meditations and readings individually. So they're in their own playlists. Alright, if there's anything I couldn't attend to during this live stream, do be aware also that my inboxes are open. Just not on this platform in particular, but on Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp, or even email. Please feel free to send a message and I'll respond free of charge just whenever I have a moment. I try to go through them once a day. A good memory, dear Ophelia, that's right. Now I live near the ocean and I cannot escape her. She draws me near to her. I love that. I wish you well in that journey, dear Maitreya. And thank you for your rose. May you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, your evening, your morning, or your night. May we continue to learn and grow and evolve together. I hope to be back smarter, wiser, more compassionate tomorrow. All mistakes that I have made today, I hope to learn from. Thank you. May you have a wonderful rest of your present moment. Namaste.